May 2016, Williston, Florida. It was a sunny and otherwise normal Saturday afternoon. A 53-foot semi-trailer truck was turning left from a 4-lane highway when a 2015 Tesla Model S going 74 miles an hour came barreling down and struck the semi. As tragic as it was, the even more tragic thing is that the accident might not have happened had the Tesla autopilot system not been enabled. Today, we're looking at the National Highway Traffic Safety Association's investigation of Tesla crashes involving the autopilot system. We're talking about 273 Tesla crashes over the past year, including 5 fatalities to date. Even if you don't own a Tesla, you'll want to watch today's video because you may someday be impacted by another Tesla on the road. Or if you do own a Tesla, you might be one of 830,000 owners getting a recall notice sometime soon. The accident in May 2016 was the first known fatality in a self-driving car. The driver was 40-year-old Joshua Brown. He was a big Tesla fan, and he'd even named his car Tessie. According to data from the Model S, the vehicle was going 74 miles per hour just before impact, and both Tesla's traffic-aware cruise control, and auto steer were active. Yet there is no data or any indication that Joshua Brown or his Tesla hit the brakes in the crucial last moments before a collision. Another driver who witnessed the scene later explained to investigators that the Tesla never appeared to slow down just before the collision. But here's the thing. Investigators found that the tractor-trailer should have been visible to the Tesla driver for at least 7 seconds prior to impact. So why didn't the Tesla stop? Here's the thing. The trailer was white and the sky was brightly lit. According to Tesla, the autopilot system's camera, radar, and ultrasonic sensors weren't able to perceive the white trailer against the brightly lit sky. Vehicle data shows that prior to the accident, the Model S had traveled for 41 minutes. Joshua controlled the car for the first 2.5 minutes of the journey. Then, for the other 2 occasions of just 20 to 30 seconds each. For the rest of the remaining 37.5 minutes, the car's autopilot systems were active. But for 37 of the 37.5 minutes, auto steer did not detect the driver's hands on the steering wheel, not even once. Did you know that at highway speeds, Tesla's auto steer actually warns the driver to keep their hands on the wheel? This happens after 1 to 5 minutes if it doesn't detect any force applied to the wheel. After a series of 3 escalating warnings, auto steer disengages, slows down the car to a stop, and turns on the hazard lights. Once the driver starts steering or changes the cruise control speed, the timer then resets. So the obvious question is, why didn't the auto steer feature disengage for Joshua Brown? Well, he increased the cruise speed just 2 minutes before the crash. While that didn't require him to place his hands on the steering wheel, it did reset the hands-off counter. Further investigations found that onboard data presented visual and audible warnings to the driver 6 times, and it even presented visual warnings a 7th time. Yet despite all that, auto steer never detected inaction long enough to disengage itself. After the impact, investigators recovered Joshua's laptop, cell phone, and other electronics, but they didn't find any evidence that those devices were in use at the time of the crash. As of recently, the crash still remains under investigation. Many people forget this, but autopilot is a feature that historically has been used in aircraft for decades. It wasn't until the 1950s that autopilot started to be part of the traditional cruise control feature in cars we know today. Nowadays, autopilot is pretty much synonymous with Tesla and its Advanced Driver's Assistance Systems, or ADAS for short. Tesla's autopilot actually dates all the way back to October 2014. But the term autopilot itself has become controversial. That's because, in actuality, this feature still requires the driver to stay alert, keep his hands on the wheel, and manually take over control. If necessary, without all these factors in place, the feature can prove deadly. Tragedy as it is, unfortunately, Joshua Brown's accident isn't the only one where Tesla's ADAS system was involved. In fact, the Tesla autopilot system has involved in 273 reported crashes over the past year alone. And of all crashes involving all driver assistance platforms, Tesla's made up the majority of the fatalities and serious injuries too. Let's talk about NHTSA, pronounced NHTSA. That's the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. They're the nation's top auto safety agency. They're responsible for keeping America safe on the roadways, and they do so by enforcing vehicle performance standards and by partnering with local and state governments. They've been asking Tesla some tough questions which Tesla doesn't seem to have straight answers to. For example, NHTSA's been asking Tesla to explain why they didn't initiate a recall when it pushed a safety-related software up to customers last September. This update was supposed to enable Tesla vehicles to detect emergency vehicle lights in low light conditions much better than they currently can. Tesla did deliver an emergency light detection update via the on-the-air software update, but this update came only after a major, even more serious investigation by NHTSA on safety defects within Tesla's autopilot. Preliminary investigation began last August, and already investigations have gone much deeper than anyone ever expected. NHTSA identified around a dozen collisions involving Tesla cars that crashed into first responders' vehicles that were parked on the side of the road. These collisions typically happen at night or in pre-dawn hours. In all of these incidents, there was one common denominator. The drivers in each Tesla had autopilot or traffic-aware cruise control features engaged before the crash. One of the crashes resulted in a fatality. That's why NHTSA wants to know if autopilot features contributed or directly caused those crashes. They also wanted to know whether or not Tesla's software update efficiently served as a stealth recall. And it's a good thing that NHTSA wants to be thorough. NHTSA is reviewing over 100 other crashes that involve Tesla autopilot. So far, preliminary reviews have found that many of these crashes, the drivers were insufficiently responsive to the needs of the dynamic driving task. So you can see so far, things aren't looking too good for Tesla. NHTSA's already dug up a lot of dirt on Tesla driver assistance system. Believe it or not, in many of these crashes, autopilot aborted vehicle control less than 1 second before the first impact. Last June, NHTSA announced they'll upgrade the probe into more than 830,000 Tesla vehicles with the autopilot advanced driving assistance system. This is significant because it's actually a required criteria before a recall must be issued. If NHTSA does find the autopilot is defective, they could mandate a recall of all these 830,000 vehicles. Of course, this would seriously damage Tesla's public image. That's not all. NHTSA warned that if Tesla doesn't comply with the special order, they could face steep fines of about $23,000 per day. They could even face a maximum penalty of up to $115 million for a series of daily violations. And parties that are responsible to Tesla could face up to 15 years of imprisonment. The first phase of investigation is the preliminary evaluation, and the second is the engineering analysis. The second phase can take over a year to complete for complex cases, and it's this technical investigation that can result in a recall if a safety-related defect is found. This isn't the first time that NHTSA has put pressure on Tesla. In fact, Tesla already issued several recalls over the years. Earlier this year, Tesla recalled almost 600,000 Teslas for obscured pedestrian warning sounds and disabled the boombox outside music feature while Teslas are in motion. Basically, EVs traveling up to 19 miles an hour are required to emit noise so that pedestrians can detect upcoming EVs. The point of the Tesla boombox was to make noise, but the external speaker was obscuring pedestrian safety sounds. Elon Musk's response was to label NHTSA as the fun police, stating that the fun police made them disable it. Anyway, if you're wondering what NHTSA's current investigation will mean for Tesla, well, at the end of the year, Tesla sold over 2.3 million cars. The expectation for Tesla's sale this year is to exceed 2.5 million cars. Those figures are actually impressive considering we're talking about a company that was only fully established in the early 2000s. Did you know that Elon Musk expects there to be over 4 million people driving Teslas by the end of the year? This means the anticipated recall doesn't happen fast. We might be seeing a lot more crashes in the years to come. Last June, Elon Musk had a super bad feeling about the economy and he cut Tesla's staff by 10%. Immediately following the announcement, 200 employees who worked at the Tesla autopilot driver assist system found themselves out of a job. We're talking people who work on data annotation. Pretty much, their job is to review and label visuals collected from Tesla vehicles to help train the autopilot system to handle specific road scenarios. Is there anything Tesla can do to improve ADAS systems? Well, to answer that question, we need to look up levels of automation. So there's an organization called SAE International. Basically, they set the standards for the car and aerospace industry, and this includes the standards for car automation. Right now, there's 6 levels of car automation. Currently, there are no cars in the market that meet the criteria higher than level 2. Level 2 is for vehicles with advanced driver assistance system. Functions like lane keeping and adaptive cruise are automated, but the car still requires a human driver at loop at all times. Technically, Teslas with autopilot systems are classified as level 2 systems. Tesla's automatic driving system performance scores so far include 273 crashes and 5 deaths. Let's put it in perspective. That's 273 crashes and 5 deaths so far from 830,000 Teslas on the road with autopilot. Compare that to 560,000 Nissans that are equipped with the ProPilot ADAS system. Believe it or not, there hasn't been a single crash reported among them to date. So you can see there's a very noticeable gap there. So, does this mean that Tesla owners should trade in their Model 3 for a Nissan Leaf with ProPilot? Well, the answer isn't as simple as you might think. The thing is, Tesla's autopilot can also be used on a slew of different road types. But Nissan's ProPilot or even GM's Super Cruise systems are only limited to highway driving. And there's another thing. You have to look at the data collection and reported quality. Car manufacturers are required to report every single incident they know about. No exceptions. But most cars on the road just don't have the needed remote telematics to send vehicle data back to the factory. Most car manufacturers are reliant on consumer complaints, the media, or law enforcement contacts. But with any of these avenues, Revenue is possible we not actually be reporting whether the ADAS systems were in use or not. But Tesla is a completely different story. They know exactly which vehicles are using autopilot when they crash. That's because their EVs are equipped with cellular and Wi-Fi connections. And these connections automatically report vehicle data if and when a crash happens. Almost all of Tesla's crash reports came from these connections. In other words, the crash count of Teslas might be more accurate, where the crash count of other car makers might be less so. Whatever happens, one thing is for sure. All drivers with level 2 systems in their cars will do well to remember that NHTSA statement, which no commercially available motor vehicle today is capable of driving itself, is true. In other words, even a so-called self-driving car isn't really fully automated. It can assist you with driving, but it cannot replace you as the driver. At the end of the day, you as the human driver still need to remain alert and ready at all times. Look, in my opinion, it'll be light years before we see a fully automated vehicle in the truest sense of the word, especially if automated cars are driving in the same lanes as human drivers. The two do not mix. Automated car technology just isn't anywhere close right now. We still have miles and miles to go before the technology can completely replace the human brain and hands. And even if one day we're able to come close, if you think about it, car makers actually have a security blanket in staying in level 2 automation, since that level legally puts the human driver responsible at the end of the day. But now you know all this, you tell me. Next time you see a Tesla on the road, do you think you'll drive more defensively around it? And have you ever driven a self-driving car? Please share by commenting below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for your support.